The door to my diner crashed open like a gunshot in the dead of night, splintering the calm of Haven Point's foggy dawn. Two men strode in, shadows cut from the mist outside, their eyes locking on me behind the counter as if I'd been the prize in a hunt they'd run for years. "You're ours now, Elias," the taller one growled, his voice a low rumble that drowned out the sizzle of bacon on the grill. "And this town's too small for you to say no." I froze, spatula slipping from my hand, the world narrowing to the glint of their rings. Matching ink-black bands etched with rival crests that screamed trouble from the ports of Portland to the back alleys of Boston. Wyatt Harlan and Declan Voss, kings of the underground trade routes snaking up the Maine coast, had finally collided right here in my grease-stained sanctuary, and they weren't leaving without me caught in the crossfire. Haven Point clung to the jagged edge of Maine like a forgotten prayer, a speck of salt-worn shacks and lobster traps where the Atlantic whispered secrets to the pines. My diner, Thorn's Tide, squatted at the end of Wharf Street, its neon sign flickering like a heartbeat against the perpetual gray. I'd poured everything into it after Dad's boat went down in 18, every dime from his life insurance, every ounce of stubborn hope, to carve out a life that didn't reek of brine and regret. At 28 I was still chasing that dream, slinging hash browns and black coffee to fishermen who smelled of diesel and despair, their stories spilling out like the tide over the rocks. But that morning, as the first pink streaks clawed at the horizon, everything shattered. The bell above the door didn't just jingle. It wailed as Wyatt and Declan burst in, their presence sucking the air from the room like a storm surge. Wyatt was the storm itself, broad-shouldered, with skin like polished oak from years under California suns before he claimed the northern routes, his dark eyes burning with the kind of hunger that built empires and buried men. Declan, lean and sharp as a switchblade, had that Irish fire in his veins, pale skin stretched taut over cheekbones that could cut glass, his green gaze flickering with something almost tender beneath the steel. They didn't sit. They claimed space, boots thudding on the linoleum I'd mopped at midnight. The three late-night regulars, old-timers nursing their mugs, scattered like leaves in a gale, muttering about city poison as they bolted. I gripped the counter, knuckles whitening, my heart slamming against ribs that felt too fragile for this. "Elias Thorne," Wyatt said, his voice gravel-wrapped in velvet, stepping close enough that I caught the scent of leather and sea salt. He loomed, all 6'4" of him, a tattoo of crashing waves curling up his neck from the collar of his black Henley. "Heard you turned down every offer from the syndicates. Smart. But now? You're the key we've both been missing." Declan's laugh was softer, a counterpoint that slithered under my skin. He leaned against the pie case, fingers drumming a rhythm that echoed my pulse. "Key to what, Harlan? The routes? The docks? Or just to him?" His eyes, those damn eyes, traced me like he was memorizing every freckle, every callus from years of hauling crates and scrubbing counters. I swallowed, tasting bile. "This is my place. You want coffee, it's $2. You want trouble, take it outside." Wyatt's grin was wolfish, all teeth and no mercy. He slid a hand across the counter, palm up, revealing the Harlan crest, a stylized anchor twisted with thorns. "Trouble's what we bring, boy. But you? You're the piece we're buying. Marry into one of us and this diner stays yours. Refuse." He let the threat hang heavy as fog. Declan's hand shot out, covering Wyatt's, their rings clashing like swords. "Or marry me, Elias. I'll burn the routes before I let him cage you." The air thickened, charged with the promise of blood on my floors. I backed up, bumping the coffee urn, hot liquid hissing like my nerves. Marry? Them? I'd heard the whispers, how Wyatt's crew ran the smuggling lines from Boston to Bangor, how Declan's boys controlled the black market trade slipping in from Canada. Rivals who'd carved up the coast like a pie, spilling red when their edges met. And now me, the neutral ground, the diner that served both sides without asking questions, as the bone they fought over. My mind raced back to the boy I'd been, hiding in the boathouse with stolen glances at the summer boys from away, their laughter a balm against Dad's silent grief after Mom left. I'd buried that part of me deep, under layers of flannel and forced smiles, convincing myself a man like me didn't get to dream of touches that lingered or promises whispered in the dark. But here they were, unearthing it all with a single stare. "I don't belong to anyone," I managed, voice cracking like thin ice. But even as I said it, their eyes pulled at me. Wyatt's raw possession, Declan's quiet plea. And I felt the first crack in my walls. They didn't leave that day. Wyatt ordered the whole menu, plates piling up as he spun tales of sun-baked California docks where he'd risen from dock rat to dawn, his laugh booming like thunder over the bay. Declan countered with stories of rainy Seattle nights, his crew's loyalty forged in the kind of betrayals that left scars deeper than ink. They bantered, edged with barbs, but their focus never wavered from me. Questions about my recipes, my late shifts, the way my hands moved when I poured coffee. By noon, the diner's windows steamed from the tension, locals peeking in like it was a sideshow. I played the host, refilling mugs with hands that shook, but inside panic brewed. These weren't suitors, they were tempests, and I was the shore about to erode. As the sun dipped low, painting the harbor gold, Wyatt stood first. Think on it, Elias. Midnight tomorrow. We'll seal it here, or we'll take it to the streets. He brushed my knuckles as he dropped a stack of bills, more than the till saw in a month, his touch electric, lingering. Declan rose slower, his gaze holding mine. Don't let him bully you. Choose freedom. Choose me. His fingers grazed my wrist, soft as sea foam, igniting something I'd long denied. They vanished into the dusk, leaving the diner echoing with their absence. I locked the door, sank to the floor amid the crumbs, and wept, for the life I'd built, for the desires I'd starved, for the storm I'd invited in. Haven Point had always been my harbor, but harbors drown the unwary. That night, sleep evaded me like a ghost ship on the fog. I paced the apartment above the diner, floorboards creaking under my bare feet, the hum of the fridge a mocking lullaby. Memories flooded in unbidden. The summer of '09, when I was 18 and the world still held promise. A boy named Finn, tousled blonde hair, easy grin, had washed up in town with his family's sailing crew. We'd stolen moments in the dunes, his hands mapping my skin under starlit skies, whispering futures that tasted like salt and forever. But Dad found out, his face twisting in that quiet Maine way, disappointment heavier than any shout. Men like us don't bend that way, son. It breaks the line. Finn left with the tide and I learned to bury deep. Now at 28, those ghosts stirred. Wyatt and Declan weren't boys. They were men who'd clawed their way through shadows, their worlds painted in grays of loyalty and loss. Wyatt's possessiveness felt like chains wrapped in silk, promising protection but demanding surrender. Declan's intensity burned softer, like embers under ash, hinting at a partnership where I might stand equal. By dawn, resolve hardened. I couldn't be their pawn, their prize in a war over whispers and waves. I'd run, pack what mattered, slip north to the Canadian border where the lines blurred and a man could vanish into the pines. The diner? Sell it quick, let some fool chase the dream. My heart ached at the thought, but better a clean break than a slow bleed. I spent the day in frenzy, boxing pots and pans, scrawling a for sale sign in marker that smeared like tears. Locals trickled in, sensing the shift. Mrs. Hargrove pressing a loaf of her soda bread into my hands, murmuring, "Whatever's chasing you, Elias, outrun it." Her eyes held the wisdom of widows who'd seen too many boats not return. As twilight bled into the harbor, a knock rattled the door. Not them, thank God. A buyer from Ellsworth, eager for a steal. We haggled over coffee gone cold, his handshake sealing the diner's fate for pennies on the dollar. By 10, the keys were his and I was loading my truck with ghosts. Dad's old sextant, a faded photo of Mom smiling on the pier, the flannel shirt Finn left behind that still smelled faintly of sunscreen. Midnight loomed, but I was gone before the clock struck, tires crunching gravel as Haven Point shrank in the rearview. The road north unspooled like a vein, carrying me toward Acadia's wild edges, where the border waited like a lover's promise. Rain slicked the windshield, wipers slashing rhythm like accusations. Freedom tasted sharp, but loneliness gnawed at its edges. I drove through the night, radio crackling with static-laced ballads of lost loves and open roads. By false dawn I crossed into the national park, the truck's headlights carving tunnels through the mist-shrouded trees. A roadside motel flickered into view, Pine Shadow Inn, its vacancy sign a beacon for the weary. I checked in under a false name, Evan Tate. The clerk barely glancing up from his crossword. The room smelled of pine cleaner and regret. Bed sagging under my weight as I collapsed. Exhaustion pulling me under. Dreams came fierce. Wyatt's hands pinning me against the counter, his breath hot against my neck. Declan's fingers threading through my hair, pulling me into a kiss that tasted of rain and redemption. I woke tangled in sheets, sweat-soaked, the ring of my burner phone shattering the quiet. Unknown number. Heart-pounding, I answered. Silence first, then a voice like smoke over embers. Declan. Elias. Running won't save you. Harlan's men are already sniffing the coast. Come back. Let me protect you. How did you? I choked, glancing at the curtains as if shadows lurked beyond. You're not invisible, love. That truck of yours? Registered in your name. And your heart. It leaves tracks. His tone softened, laced with something raw. I meant what I said. Not possession. Partnership. Meet me at the chapel in Bar Harbor. Dawn. No tricks. The line died, leaving me adrift. Bar Harbor, 20 miles east. Tourist trap turned ghost town this late in season. The chapel there, St. Mary's, perched on a cliff overlooking the bay. Its bells tolling like judgments. Why there? Sanctuary maybe. Or trap. I should have kept driving, melted into the border's blur. But his voice hooked something deep. A threat of the boy who'd once believed in second chances. By 4 a.m. I was rolling east, fog coiling like fingers around the cliffs. The chapel emerged from the gloom, stone facade weathered by gales, stained glass glowing faintly in the pre-dawn hush. I parked in the lot, empty save for gulls wheeling overhead. The door creaked open under my push, admitting me to a nave scented with wax and salt air. Candles flickered on the altar, casting long shadows that danced like specters. I knelt in the front pew, knees grinding into the worn wood, hands clasped around nothing but air. Prayer? Habit from childhood Sundays, Dad's hand heavy on my shoulder. But the words stuck, too much ache, too little faith. Footsteps echoed from the vestibule, deliberate and unhurried. Declan emerged from the gloom, coat dusted with mist, his face a map of worry lines softened by the candlelight. He didn't speak at first, just slid into the pew beside me, close enough that his warmth pierced the chill. You came, he murmured, voice barely above the whisper of waves below. Stupid of me. I didn't look at him, eyes fixed on the crucifix, Christ's gaze seeming to pierce my secrets. No. Brave. His hand found mine, tentative, fingers lacing like they belonged. Rough from ropes and rings but gentle. Wyatt's furious. Thinks I orchestrated your flight. But I swear, Elias, this isn't a game. I've watched you from afar, serving those bastards without flinching. You're stronger than both our worlds combined. I pulled away, the contact too much, too soon. Strong? I'm a coward who runs from paper napkins and pie crusts. You think a ring fixes that? He reached into his pocket, producing a small velvet box that gleamed dully. Snapping it open, a silver band nestled inside. Simple, etched with waves interlocking like hands. Not fixes. Honors. Marry me not for the routes or the diner. For you. For us if you'll have it. My breath hitched, chest tight as the sea during a nor'easter. Kneeling there, ring offered like absolution. I saw the man behind the myth. Declan Voss, 32 and scarred by a youth of foster homes and street fights. His empire built on salvaging what others discarded. In his eyes I glimpsed my own fractures. The queer kid from the coast dreaming of touches that didn't end in dawn's harsh light. But freedom whispered louder. I can't be your anchor, Declan. Not when your storms rage. His face crumpled just a flicker before steel returned. Then run with me. Leave the coasts. We start new. Portland maybe, or farther. Temptation coiled, sweet as sin. But before I could answer, tires crunched outside. Headlights slicing the stained glass into bloody shards. Wyatt. He burst through the doors like Judgment Day, flanked by two shadows, his enforcers faces hard as granite. Rain plastered his shirt to his chest, outlining the tattoos that told tales of battles won and loves lost. Voss, he snarled, eyes locking on the ring box. Poaching my claim? In a house of God, no less. Declan rose, shielding me without thought, his body a barrier of quiet fury. He's no one's claim, Harlan. Back off. Wyatt's laugh was bitter, echoing off the rafters. Everything's a claim on this coast, including him. His gaze shifted to me, softening in a way that twisted my gut. Possessive, yes, but laced with a vulnerability that mirrored Declan's. Wyatt Harlan, 35, forged in the fire of LA gangs before migrating east. His heart a vault cracked by the betrayal of a lover who'd sold him out for a rival's bed. I stood, legs unsteady, caught between them like the tide's pull. Enough. This ends now. No rings, no routes. Just me walking away. But as their stares clashed over my head, sparks flying like flint on steel, I knew the storm was just breaking. Haven Point's ghosts had followed me here, and the only way out was through the heart of it. The chapel's air grew thick with unspoken threats, the candle flames guttering as if sensing the violence brewing. Wyatt advanced, his enforcers fanning out like wolves circling a fire, their hands hovering near concealed holsters. Declan tensed beside me, his free hand slipping toward the small of his back. Knife or worse, I didn't want to guess. I stepped forward, palms out, voice steady despite the tremor in my soul. Stop. Both of you. This isn't a dockside brawl. It's a goddamn sanctuary. Wyatt halted, inches away, his breath ragged. Up close, the lines around his eyes told stories. Nights spent staring at ceilings after deals gone south. The weight of men sworn to him buried under waves or bullets. Sanctuary for saints, Elias. We're sinners, you and I. And sinners claim what's theirs. Declan's grip on the box tightened, knuckles blanching. He's not property. Not yours to hoard like cargo. The words ignited something primal. Wyatt lunged, not at Declan but at the box, fingers closing like a vice. They grappled, pews scraping as bodies collided, grunts echoing like thunderclaps. I shouted, lunging between them, my shove barely budging Wyatt's bulk. A fist flew, Declan's glancing off Wyatt's jaw, and blood bloomed, dark and accusing on the stone floor. Enough. My cry cracked the air, raw as a wound. They froze, chests heaving, eyes wild. In that suspended breath I saw it, not just rivalry but a mirror. Two men, shaped by loss, reaching for me as if I held the map to absolution. Wyatt, abandoned by his father in the sprawl of San Diego, building walls of muscle and menace. Declan, orphaned in Seattle's downpours, forging bonds that broke like rain-streaked glass. I knelt, retrieving the fallen ring, its silver cool against my palm. You both want this. Me. But why? I'm no prize. Just a man with grease under his nails and dreams that don't fit your worlds. Wyatt wiped blood from his lip, voice low. Because you see us, Elias. Not the bosses. The boys who still wake up reaching for ghosts. Declan nodded, sheathing his anger. And because in you I see home. Not the routes. You. Tears stung, hot and unbidden. For the first time the walls I'd built, for Dad, for Finn, for the Maine winters that froze feelings solid, cracked wide. I slipped the ring onto my finger, not as claim but as choice. Declan's eyes widened, hope flickering like the candles. But Wyatt's face darkened, betrayal etching deeper than any blade. So that's it? You choose the snake. No, I said, voice gaining steel. I choose me. And if you both want in, you earn it. No empires. No enforcers. Just us, starting small like pie at midnight. They exchanged a look, the first without venom. Wary alliance perhaps, or the dawn of something fragile. Wyatt's men shifted uneasily, but he waved them back. Deal. For now. We left the chapel as the sun crested, painting the bay in fire. No grand gestures, just three men walking into the light. The ring a quiet weight on my hand. Haven Point waited, but so did the road. Open, uncertain, alive with possibility. Back at the diner, mine again, bought back with a hasty wire from Declan's contacts. The air hummed with tentative peace. Wyatt commandeered the grill, flipping burgers with a focus that bordered on therapy, his laughter booming as he burned the first batch. Declan perched on a stool, sketching route maps on napkins that dissolved into doodles of waves and anchors. I moved between them, pouring coffee, my touches lingering. A brush of shoulders, a shared glance, that spoke volumes without words. Nights blurred into a rhythm. Whispers over closing shifts, bodies entwining in the apartment above, learning the languages of scars and sighs. Wyatt's touch was fire, urgent, all-consuming, pulling confessions from depths I'd forgotten. Declan's was tied, patient, enveloping, coaxing trust like sunlight on frost. Together they were storm and shelter, and I the eye finding center in their chaos. But shadows lingered. Whispers from the docks reached us. Harlan loyalists grumbling at Wyatt's softening. Voss underlings eyeing Declan with suspicion for consorting with the enemy. The coast's underbelly churned, deals fraying like old nets. I felt it in the way Wyatt's phone buzzed late, his jaw clenching, in Declan's distant stares toward the horizon. One evening as autumn leaves skittered across Wharf Street like warnings, betrayal slithered in. A package arrived at the diner, unmarked, heavy with intent. Inside, photos of us, grainy shots from hidden lenses, me laughing between them on the pier, their hands on my waist in the chapel's glow. Tucked amid the prints, a note in block letters. Blood before bedfellows. Choose or we choose for you. Wyatt's face turned thunderous, crumpling the paper. My own second. Traitorous dog. Declan scanned the images, green eyes narrowing. Or one of mine. Testing loyalties. Accusations flew, sharp as gulls' cries, fracturing the fragile truce. I stood between, voice cutting through. No. This is the game talking. We're not playing. But doubt seeded. That night sleep fractured with nightmares, Wyatt's hands turning to chains, Declan's whispers to lies. Dawn brought clarity, cold as the bay. I rose early, slipping out to the cliffs, the ring heavy on my finger. Wind whipped my hair, carrying the salt of truth. Love wasn't possession. It was release. When I returned they waited, Wyatt pacing, Declan still as stone. We're dissolving the claims, I said, sliding the ring across the counter. The route split fair. The diner? Neutral ground. And us. We built from scratch. No bosses. Just men. Wyatt's eyes flashed pain then resolve. You'd walk for that? I'd walk for us, I replied. All of us. Declan nodded first, pocketing the ring. Then we walked together. The dissolution took weeks. Meetings in smoke-filled backrooms, lines redrawn on maps stained with coffee rings. Bloodshed loomed but compassion won. Amnesties granted, old grudges buried with handshakes over whiskey. Haven Point watched, wary as the syndicate splintered into smaller crews, the coast breathing easier under lighter yokes. In the quiet that followed we rebuilt. Wyatt took to the soil, turning a plot behind the diner into a garden. Tomatoes ripening under his calloused hands, a metaphor for growth from grit. Declan mended nets on the pier, teaching me the knots that held without binding. Nights we gathered, 3 souls tangled in flannel and firelight, exploring boundaries with the tenderness of survivors. Not perfect. Jealousy flared like summer heat, arguments echoing off the beams. But in the lulls we found grace. Wyatt's head on my shoulder during storms, Declan's fingers tracing my spine in dawn's hush. I learned my worth, not in claims but in the space I carved between them, a haven of my own making. One spring evening as lobster boats dotted the bay like stars, I knelt again, not in chapel but on the beach, sand gritty under knees. The ring reforged with both their crests intertwined, weighted in my palm. Not claim, I said, voices of gulls are witness. Choice. Wyatt and Declan knelt too, hands enveloping mine. Ours, they echoed, and in that word freedom bloomed, raw, human, eternal. The diner thrived, a beacon for wanderers with stories heavier than their packs. Haven Point softened, its edges blurring into acceptance. And we sailed on, 3 against the tide, hearts anchored not by force, but by the quiet mercy of love's unyielding grace.